Hey folks, so I'm working on a mini metro, and I thought it might be cool to show you a little bit of um, what I'm doing. I need to make a engine sound today, an instrument set for a special kind of a train called a Shinkansen, which is a bullet train that is used in Japan. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is pull up one of my old engine sounds and see if I can use that as a reference point. Maybe there's an element here I can extrapolate. Yeah, one or either of those is possible. So I'm going to make a new alternative called Shinkansen. Start going to work. Got the wrong instrument selected, which is something I do all the time. So trying to just give it a little bit of a maybe more body or something. This sound is going to be looped, so there won't be a release point where you'll hear a tail of delay. I haven't messed too much with the synthesizer, so I'm kind of still learning it. It's pretty cool. The wavetable stuff is cool. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the envelopes. The LFOs. They're pretty functional, but been having some problems with it cycling in a consistent way, especially with like really basic waveforms like sine waves and stuff. So I'm gonna want pitch quality for these because the train engines in Mini Metro are tonal, and they change based on what the note that the line is generating is. So you can hear some of these here. So yeah, I'm kind of going for that sort of thing. But I want this sound to be very distinctive from the others because this is a special kind of train. Those other sounds are pretty much just allocated randomly to trains in the game because there's only there's a default train which is pretty much all of them, and then there's this special train, the Shinkansen, which will have its own unique sound. Well, just gonna keep messing around. This sound is still a little too choppy. So I might smoothing that out. At this point, I might want to start messing with the envelope just to get a better sense of how the sound will behave in the game. A train starts from a station and arrives at another station, so there's a relatively slow attack and a relatively slow release that happens. So I'll try to dial that in just to get a feel for it. It's pretty cool. Now it might be cool to do some kind of harmonic thing here. A lot of engine sounds tend to have lots of rich harmonics and different tones that are sort of happening together. So you can kind of screw with that and see what we come up with. You don't want it to be too overpowering because then you'll lose the tonal center of the sound. We want to play a C. You still want to hear that C, but you want to get a little bit of this right now, which is kind of a really resonant flat 7. You kind of want that. You don't want that to overpower it. You want it to just be there as an element. Get some pretty cool effects with this. I need a slower LFO for that. At this point, we want to dial in the tempo of the game so that the game runs on a clock, 72 beats per minute clock. So if we do want to have any sort of periodical quality to the sound, I want to dial in that tempo. And actually, for this train, well, let's see. So let's go to Osaka, which is the level that we'll be using this train. there's obviously a lot going on, a lot to explain. I don't want to get into too much because it'll get me off track here, but this is the uh, this is the level where we're using the Shinkansen train right now, and at the moment we've got triplets. So each bar is made up of 12 pulses. So 4 is a bar that's broken up into 3. 6 is a bar broken up into 2, and then 8 kind of it requires 3 bars to complete. So that's another triplet feel. This is a single bar. This is a bar and a triplet. This is a bar and a half. And this is a bar and 2 triplets. So this is kind of a triplet feel in general at the moment. I mean, obviously this is really easy to change. But knowing that, I might make a certain decision about, whether I want this engine sound to have a rhythmic quality or not. I might want to go for a half note triplet feel, which would be 3, I believe that's 3 notes in place of 2, so that'd be 3 notes in a bar. I guess I should clarify that I'm talking about these as bars, but actually these are it's actually a single beat. So this is a single beat split up into 3 parts. So yeah, that's definitely confusing. So I was just looking at this math here, and it's not correlating because it's not really a half note triplet. It's actually I don't know. It's maybe a quarter note. Let's see. Yeah, so because the game is actually using I'm thinking about it as a 4-bar structure in the game, but it's actually a single bar, so I'm having to multiply that math a bit. So it's in this case it'd be a 16th triplet. And then in the game that would give us, kind of a triplet feel, 3 divisions to each beat. I don't want it to be too noticeable. Might try to beefing the sound up a little bit. Kind of like that. I like it's a little quieter. There's probably more I can do to quiet this up a bit. I might want to throw down another high shelf or something. This is kind of loud. Let's see. It's actually pretty good right at the beginning there at 2000. Give it a little bit of that hissy quality. That's pretty subtle and cool. I think I like that. So now I'll just kind of screw around a little bit. Because in theory, you know, there's going to be more than one of these trains going, so I need to think about how they're going to sound. And there's more than one. So right now you can hear that there's... Occasionally you get some flanging and stuff, which I don't actually want. And there's a couple of ways to get around that. The easiest way is to add some kind of randomness to your sound so that there's slight fluctuations every time you play a note, and that will help. That'll help a lot. So, got this chaos thing, which should help. See how we can use that. Maybe. You can obviously throw that on quite a few things. Let's try throwing it on the wavetable position of the oscillator. Let's see. Grab another one of these. Throw it on the wavetable position on this one. Alright, we're still getting some flanging. We can modulate, we can randomize the rate of this LFO a little bit. That will also help. LFO on rate. Just a little bit should be enough. Of course, this does remove the triplet feel that we had before. Oh, actually, no, it doesn't, because we've got that on a separate LFO. So that's perfect. You're still getting some flanging. I mean, the more of this randomness we add, the less flanging theoretically there should be, but it might take quite a bit. And there also is that this phase modulation, which is gonna create some of that on its own because it's phasing. Flanging is essentially phasing. So we could think about maybe turning that off. That's here. Let's see if there's a way to mute this. I think there is a way to mute this. No, there's not. Okay. Well, I'll have to just turn it off for now. Okay, so one thing I just noticed about this is that this chaos modulator is it's kind of a noise. It's like a running noise signal, and there's another kind of random which I use a lot in massive, which is called RT, which is random trigger, and I believe this node on random is the same thing, which will give us a single new value every time. So instead of having this like active moving rate, there'll just be a single value, and that's more along the lines of what we want, because I think when the LFO rate is constantly fluctuating, it gives the sound a little bit of instability, and that's not the kind of character that I'd like to get across with this engine. So see, that definitely helps a little bit. We might want to, we can mess with the filters a little bit. We can really get into this and just give everything a little bit of a random range. Get into the cutoff. So I think I'd rather lean this way so that it's darker as opposed to more present. So let's try to do that. And this is actually a change that we won't hear in this context. This is randomizing the cutoff position of the filter. And when I create the instrument for the engine, this, every time I play, the filter will be in a slightly different place. So when those are all playing together, you'll hear an extra layer of variation. But in the synth itself, it's using the same filter cutoff for all the notes that I'm playing. So it's more a facsimile just to get a rough feel for most of these other features. Now might be a really good time to save this file, this patch, because it's getting pretty complicated and I wouldn't want to lose it. So I don't remember where I'm saving stuff. Yeah, let's just save this. Save one in here, and then I'll also save a channel strip, which is actually my preferred thing to do. Drop that in there. I've got all my patches over here that, not all of them, but I've got a bunch of good starters that make just make my workflow a little easier. dial this back a little bit so it's a little airier. So this is sounding pretty cool to me. Cool. So might try one more thing just to make this sound a little give it a little bit of variation. Maybe a frequency shifter. So I can also, I think I can randomize this with MIDI input. Try that. Let's just do this for shits and giggles. Turn off the sync. This is something I try a lot and it almost never works, but every once in a while I get something cool out of it. So I think this actually helps. It gives that little bit of kind of a sheen that sounds it sounds kind of futuristic or something, and I think that's a good distinction to make. Given that this train is a bullet train, it's faster than the default train quite significantly. So every once in a while, this filter is going to come up too high. It's going to be a little bit too shrill, so I can just dial this back a bit more. But of course, I do like some of the other aspects of this. Let's see. In theory, there can be as many as, well, I think, so in Mini Metro, levels tend to have 7 lines. Some have 6, some have 5. I don't remember how many lines. Okay, so Osaka has 6 lines. So, there could, in theory, as far as I know, there could be as many as 24 of these going at once. So, you know, it's good to have a reasonable amount of variation in the sound, especially if the intention is to create a unique set for these engines. That said, each line generally is playing a different note, so it's not often that you'll have more than, say, 4 trains playing the same note. Generally, they'll all be playing different notes, so those will be using different samples that'll have different variations baked into them. Okay, so I'm going to export this now and show you the kind of the workflow that I've been using to create loops, which is a bit tricky, and it took me a while to figure something out that cuts back on the amount of time it normally takes to export 48, 60 samples, create seamless loops, name them all properly. There's a lot of steps that go into that, so I've accumulated some tools that help with that. And first thing I want to do is kill the release and attack. And that'll just give me more real estate to work with when I'm exporting. And then I'm gonna move this down to C2 and probably give it a bar. It's probably too much, actually. Could give it. Well, let's give it a bar just in case I want to make longer loops with more variation in them. Yeah, that seems good. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to loop this 12 times. Then I'm going to make them real. Shift F for me is might be the default key shortcut, I don't know, but it selects all the notes preceding the note that you selected. So I can do that, that. I can do this pretty quickly. And then I've got a whole octave there. I'm going to duplicate that because I need 4 octaves because the game uses 4 octaves. So I'm just going to do that. Do that. Just want to make sure this is the right note because I did kind of move things around a bit as far as octave ranges go. So I'll play sound and make sure I'm in the right octave. Woo! I think that's right. Hard to tell. That actually might be right. I might need a little bit more low end in this sound. It's a little sparse on the low end. Oh my god. There's all kinds of stuff going on under here. Kind of forgot where this was too. I'll have to go back to the video. I think it was at 1,000? 2,000. 2,000? No, that was this. This is at 2,000. Oh, I know. I can just reload this. Where is it? 908. Okay. What I might do instead is create a really simple sound and put it underneath this sound, and then that'll help build up the low end. So what I'm going to do is grab those, do that, those, do that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 octaves. Okay. Now, as I said, create another sound here, create an alias, and then load up just a really simple bass sound of some kind. I've got one of those here, just super basic. Just gonna fix the pretty gnarly. I'm already shelving it quite a bit. Whoa. That might be good. Let's see. So this doesn't actually seem to be behaving in the way I expected to. Maybe. Okay, so I think this means that if I change the polarity, okay, now you see it's only happening on this side of the zero crossing. So if this is set to bipolar, it'll go all over the place. If it's set to unipolar, it'll only happen on the side that this amount is dragged to. So that gives me more control over the sound that I want, which is great. It also means I can probably dial this forward a little bit more, which would be. Okay, I think that's more along the lines of what I'm looking for. Yeah, I just want to gnarly this up a little bit. So that it fits better with the engine quality. Try to give it a less dissonant rate here. So if you notice, it's pretty dissonant. but I can kind of get this to a place where it's more consonant. Though it might be changing every note. Yeah, it's changing every note. So one thing it could do is map the key position to this note. I mean to the rate, which we might be able to get what we want that way, or not. So that's not really working. So I'm gonna give up on that idea. Maybe instead just get it right to the threshold where it's too fast to really tell the rhythm, but too slow to create sort of a harmonic. It's kind of interesting having two notes doing a unison, two notes of unison, and then maybe detuning them. All right, I think I'm good to go here. So I don't really need this. I don't really need this once I get to C3. Down here, this bass note from this, we'll call it a sine wave. Oops. Down here, this bass note is really helping. Up here, it starts to get too loud. By here, we don't need it at all. So what I'm going to do is map the volume of this sound to the keyboard. So as this sine wave is required less and less to fill out the sound, the volume of it will decrease. And the way to do that is pretty simple. It's dragging the note source here to the master, except that doesn't work. So we'll have to figure out another way to do that. We grab the note number and we send it to the amplifier, the global amplifier. So now Okay, so this needs to go that way. So now we can hear it here. And you can see here this blue line, this is telling us what's actually happening. So if I start again, at C1, we've got it there. It's moving back gradually. So the one thing that I would like to change though is the amount, which is, it's a little light. So I believe, so I have a curve here that I can use. So that will solve the problem. So now see, it's because this curve is more exponential, I'm getting almost full volume here. Oh, it's actually not making it, so I need to dial this. I need to crap. I guess I can't move this over. That would be nice. This was a multi-step. Maybe I can do. So I mean, this one needs to be really quiet. Alright, so this isn't really going to get us... This curve is not really going to get us what we want, unfortunately. It's a good idea, but if it was multi-step, it would be a lot more useful in this case. I basically want this green line to be down here when we get here. Or rather... Yeah, I want it to be way up here. And I want this to be way down here. So as a result of that, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know why I can't change that. But I'm gonna perfect. Okay, so it turns out you can add multiple steps. So that will make this a lot easier to get what we want. So we want to hear it here. When we get here, we want to stop. We want to start not hearing it so much. I wish you could lock these. I bet there is a way to lock them, but I don't know what it is. Oh, did that do it? No. Option. So I can just put these right where I want. I mean, by here, we basically don't need this sound anymore. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, there's still some work that we might want to do with EQ and stuff after, but you know, that we can do later. We don't have to do that right now. We can focus on exporting this and starting to create those loops. So that's what I'm going to do. First of all, let's see how loud these are. Not loud at all. Not a huge deal. Working in 24-bit. Game's audio is 16-bit, so it's not a huge deal. I can do this, which gives us a little bit of makeup. I think with this too, you can hear that the noise might be a little bit much. I'm not sure that it's the volume so much as we might just need an EQ. We might just want an EQ in here. Okay, we'll try that. Once this goes into the game, you know, these changes that sound good here in this environment may not actually work in the context of the other sounds. And we may actually want, you know, why this might seem more balanced now, we might actually want a sound that's less balanced in the context of everything else, you know, and that's something that we'll find out. Okay, so I'm going to bounce now. And I'm not going to include the auto tail because I don't need it. All right. Where did I put this? Train engines. Okay. All right, so now we got this file. It's still pretty quiet, but you know, I'll take a look at the other trains in the game, and you know, try to get them all to the same level. So I did that wrong. Maybe just engine. Yeah, engine. Okay. So you grab one of these. So these are significantly louder. So I'll want to bring these up as a first step. I want to bring these up to this level. So I believe this is about, I'm not really sure. It's more than that. As you can see, we've got a lot of variation here. Should be pretty interesting. And you know, the nice thing about having a instrument set that has some randomness to it is if a particular sample sounds wonky or we don't like it, we can just go back and rebounce it and it'll be different. Okay, so it's got to be more than that. It's probably got to be a lot more. And another thing that I should mention is that after I cut these up, I'm probably going to normalize them all individually so that the average volume of all of them is somewhat similar. And part of the reason that I've been doing that in this project specifically is that the higher notes in the instruments tend to be a lot louder than the lower notes. And in order to compensate, you know, after the fact, I've been doing that, and that's helped with making it so that the higher pitched notes are not so shrill and annoying. Okay, so that's good for now. There are obviously some like clicks and stuff, that we don't have to worry about those because those will get removed in the looping process. So the next thing I'm going to do at this point is make sure that I'm in 72 beats per minute, which I believe I am. Nope, not 72. Okay. So that creates a grid at 72 beats per minute. So now, to get it 1 per sample, I'm going to divide this by 4, so that'll be 18. Now, I'll have 1 grid on each sample. Then I can insert markers at the grid lines, and this program Sound Studio, which is pretty cool. Then I can split it by the markers. So I come in here, go to my instruments, which are in here, create a new folder for Shinkansen, and then export those bad boys. Now you might be thinking, how are you going to name all those files without going crazy? And I have an answer for that. I have this program called Name Angler, which is pretty cool. It has a basic sort of API of sorts, or syntax that you can use to create some nice batch processing for file naming. And I've got one already here that I've used a couple of times for some of the other instrument sets. I'm just going to replace that with this. And that should be all I need to do. Boom. Done. Super easy. Do this real quick. Make sure these are right. They're good. All right. Next step, loop editor. This is a new program that I got pretty recently, specifically for this project, because I normally don't work this way, creating sampled instrument sets like this for a game. This is a pretty cool program. It's also has some basic scripting that you can do. I've made a couple of pretty basic scripts that just kind of automate some of the things that I need to do in order to get this going. One of them is that. And by default, they just kind of fill the whole thing. Then I'm gonna do this, which is a script I made for creating engine loops. Now, this was designed for more rhythmic engines, and I think for these, I think I want something not so rhythmic, so I'm going to make these wider, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to open the scripts folder. I'm going to duplicate this to create a Shinkansen engine. Oh boy, let's close these. So for this one, I'm going to, that script that I used, what it did is it created length and location that were each a quarter of the total length of the file. And because the file is exactly 1 bar, it was working in a musical way. So for this, because I want it to be longer, I'm gonna set the location to the same, but I'm gonna set the length to be, so it's divided into 4. I'm gonna set it to half instead of a quarter. And I'm gonna set, yeah, let's try that. Let's see what that does. So that's still kind of noticeable. So that's not great. So try to figure out something better. Let's see, I could do. I could break this into tenths maybe, or eighths. Let's do eighths. Oh, why is that coming up red? That's weird. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. In this case, because the starting location is 0.125, and the crossfades would have to be shorter. So let's try that. You know, what might be better actually is to just figure out what works for a single one of these, and then maybe I can create a workflow out of that. All right. So this is great for simpler. It can be really great for like sine waves and things that are really obvious, where you want to create something that loops in a normal way. This sound is a bit more random, so it's not going to loop as easily. But I might have to come in here and find zero crossings on each one of these, and that is a lot of clicking. But creating these scripts has saved me a lot of time that I would have had to spend setting up loops for every single sound. A lot of tedious type stuff. All right, I might need a really long crossfade for this particular sound. It's okay if it has a little bit of a sort of periodic whooshing quality to it. I'm okay with that. I think that will be fine. These trains are really fast, so you're never really going to hear this loop that long anyway. And I just had an idea actually that will help with this, which is to randomize the start point of the sample. So I'll probably apply that to all the engines, and that will make all the engines that are not so well. Actually, let me think about this. So this still does have a rhythmic quality to it. But it's so minimal that it's not even going to be picked up. So maybe I can just randomize the point of these samples. All right, so I'm going to set this up to just go half and half. And obviously there's a bit of a bump there, so I'll have to do some. All right, that's good. Oh, I see what I did here. Okay, so I need to set this to 0.5, and I think that will do it. Sounds good. All right, these are all good to go. So, what I'm going to do now is probably put these in its own folder in case I want to change the loop points of these, which is probably not going to happen, but you never know. Then I'm going to grab all these guys and export them, making sure I crop the loop points, and then choose the folder. Engine, Shinkansen. Boom. All right. Got all my files. They're all good to go. Now what I'm going to do is run a batch process on these files using another program called Sample Manager. And what I want to do with these, so I have a workflow for creating, so I should preface, in Mini Metro, because of the audio system that we're using, we need the same, we need all the samples that we're using, we need to have them in different sample rates. We need to have them at 44.1, 48K, and 24K. So I created a simple workflow here to convert all the files when I create them into the various sample rates that we need. Now, also what I'm going to do for this particular workflow is I'm going to normalize all the sounds individually. I'll pick a good level for it, and I'll probably use the scooter. I'll probably use one of these sounds again just as a reference point. Okay, so if I want to normalize these to a similar position, these are definitely more present, so I might not go so loud, I might go -12. Even that's a little bit much, maybe 14. Also, they're fast trains, so maybe they should be a little quieter. Yeah, like that might be good. I might just dial up a tiny bit. I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna roll with that, which is -15 dB. So let's set this to -15 individually. These are done in place. The source is all the files in the list, and then the next step, which is to convert the bit depth down to 16-bit, because these are 24-bit loops. I'm going to use the files from the previous action, and then I'm going to make new files in these folders, which are in the game's development folder. So I'll make 44.1 and use those to resample. It's not the greatest thing to resample from this way. I mean, ideally, I would probably convert 48K from 24-bit, but I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. At this point, I might go back and redo these, but for now, it's fine. Files from previous action, files from previous action. So that should be good to go, and then I just hit this button, and it'll make all the files I need. So here we go. Fingers crossed. All right, that's it. It's done. So these should all be roughly the same volume now, and the best way to test that is to open the highest and the lowest, and this is the lowest. And this is the highest. And that's pretty good. I mean, those are very different sounding, but they still tend to be in the same volume range, which is what I want. Okay, so these sounds are ready to go. They should be in the project file now. So I'm going to quit out of this. Quit my email. I'm going to quit a bunch of stuff. Quit that. Open up Unity. So I almost forgot that we need to create a noise version of this engine. We've created a version that has a tonal quality, and that is used when a train has passengers on it. When a train doesn't have passengers on it, it will just emit a noise version of that sound. So to go ahead and do that, it's pretty straightforward using what we've already done. Let's go ahead and mute those. So we've got our sound, and we're just going to go in here and kind of drop out the tonal aspect. Oh, the sub. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I can go in and maybe variate the sound a bit more because it doesn't have the tonal aspect. But I actually think it sounds fine, so I'm just going to go ahead and steal this. And for this particular version, normally I'd only have 4, I think I was doing 4 variations per noise. Let's see. Let me pull up my code here. So the thing is that I want to make sure that the engine, in theory, there can be 28 noise engines going at once, but also there are a lot of different engine types that are being used, and I just want to make sure that we've got enough variation there so that there's not going to be phasing problems. The other instruments, I think they all have 4 variations. 6. Okay. So I've got 6 for all the other engines. So I'll go with 6 variations for this, and hopefully that will be enough. Okay, so these are not, if you can see I'm running up the keyboard here, they're not, the sound is not altered by which key I'm playing, so I can just kind of copy this the way it is and it should be fine. So I'm just going to grab the first 6. delete everything else. And save and bounce. And then the process for making these into loops is the same as for the notes, so I'll just skip ahead to that part. All right, so the engine noise sounds are all ready to go. I actually went back and took some of the overtones out of the tonal engine sounds because they were a little bit too present, and it was kind of taking away from each line having its own solid note. So I went back and dialed that back quite a bit, and had to go into the code and set things up to accept a special case for when a train is a Shinkansen, because up until this point, all trains have been of the standard variety, and they were all sharing a series of parameters and code and stuff about what train engines to use and how long to fade in for, things like that. So I had to go in here and kind of just create some special cases about if this is a Shinkansen, do things a little bit differently. Change the fade in time. So because the Shinkansen is faster, I've made the fade in time half what it is for the normal trains, and hopefully that will all help it to feel a little bit better. All right, so let's check it out. All right, I'm going to use some cheat codes to give myself a Shinkansen, and we can hear what that sounds like. I don't know, it might not be moving around at the right speed, but you'll at least get to feel what it's supposed to be like. So here we go. This is what it sounds like now in game. Now we can speed it up. Throw some other lines in there. And it is working the way it's supposed to, so that's cool. Alright, so there you have it. Seems to be working pretty good. Hope that you got something out of this video, and let me know what you think. I might start doing more of these. So yeah, have a good one.